Did you miss Sunday's games? Maybe you had to work or had too many errands to run? Your football self wouldn't be happy.
That's the result you're gonna get!
But don't worry, tune in to the Instant Replay Show with Josh Lemon every Monday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Sunday's games are going under review, as we'll give you every headline, every story, every Monday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Only on 88.1 The Edge. Edge 88.1, it's 8:20 on this Tuesday evening. Let's take a look at the weather. It's cooling down a bit, around 82 degrees now, and should get to about 80 by 10 o'clock. I'll be with you tonight. Till then, we have some sports news as the second week of the season has concluded. Also, plenty of key players going down already with injuries. Also, we'll talk about what's going on in the New York area as well as Minnesota. And what are the odds that you hit a deer while driving in Iowa? It might be more likely than you think. All that coming up here on Edge 88.1. Here's a live by Escape the Fate. This is Edge 88.1. Yesterday was Monday Night Football, Eagles versus Bears. Carson Wentz once again shined as he led the Eagles to a 2-0 victory. Although several Bears went down with injuries, including Jay Cutler, Alshon Jeffrey remained intact, so my fantasy team and fantasy teams around the world will be fine. The Bears can never seem to catch a break, can they? I've always wondered why their slogan is "Bear Down." I feel like that's all they were saying yesterday. You know, bear down. This time it's Jay Cutler. Anyways, we have more injury updates for you coming later today. Don't go anywhere. This is Edge 88.1. Up next, we have Bad Blood by Taylor Swift. This is Edge 88.1. I mentioned yesterday the Monday Night Football clash, but the real battle is next Monday night. Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. That's right, Donald Trump's going to take on Hillary Clinton in the first presidential debate of this election cycle. And what a show that'll be. I'm definitely not going to miss that. I typically don't get too excited about presidential debates, but this one, it's practically going to be comedy. I watched some of the Republican debates with Trump, and they're simply funny, for lack of a better term. Anyways, Minnesota lost another key offensive player, and the Browns lost another one of their quarterbacks, as well as a game. And we'll have more on that after this. This is Edge 88.1. Up next, California Dreamin'. This is Edge 88.1. Minnesota got a big win on Sunday night with their new quarterback, Sam Bradford, but they lost another key part of their offense in the process. The Vikings came out and said that Adrian Peterson has a torn meniscus, and they're still going through the process to determine how much time he will miss. Also, another injury news, the Browns for the second straight week lose on the scoreboard and lose their starting quarterback. First, they lost RG3 in the first game, and then in their second game, they lost Josh McCown. But they expect Josh McCown to be back before the end of the season, but they will be starting rookie Cody Kessler next week versus Miami. All I can say about that is good luck, Browns fans. So we have more music coming up, as well as some news that rattled America this last weekend. Up next is The Ocean by Mike Perry featuring Shy Martin. This is Edge 88.1. This is Edge 88.1. Unfortunately, this last weekend was quite an eventful one in terror news. There were multiple explosions in the New Jersey and New York area. The first one happened in New Jersey, kind of near where a 5K charity race was going to happen. Runners were originally supposed to be in that area when the device exploded, but thankfully the race was actually delayed after they had found an unattended backpack. But then 11 hours later, there was an explosion in New York's Chelsea neighborhood that actually injured 29 people, and they concluded that these attacks were connected, and they then they found the primary person involved actually sleeping in a doorway of a bar, and after a shootout they were able to take him into custody alive. An attacker at a Minnesota mall actually was not so lucky. Find out what happened to him next. This is JD8.1. A man by the name of Jason Falconer was in the right place at the right time at Crossroads Center Mall in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Some crazy person went on a stabbing spree and injured 10 people. Unfortunately for that person, Jason Falconer, an off-duty officer and firearms expert, happened to be shopping on that day. you might be able to assume what happened there. Let's just say this guy won't be making a court appearance. The first thing I did when I turned 21 was I took a class and got my permit to carry. You never know what's going to happen these days. This wasn't somewhere like New York City or Los Angeles or Chicago or anything like that. This wasn't even at Mall of America. This was just some mall in St. Cloud, Minnesota. I don't know who's going to be president next, and we're not exactly left with stellar options to choose from. But whoever it is, they are going to have to deal with this type of stuff, because it seems like these things are happening more often. Some are terror-related, some aren't. But it seems like they say that these 3 attacks this last weekend were terror-related. Anyways, I have some more sports news coming up. This is Edge 88.1. This is Edge 88.1, Des Moines radio mashup. I spoke earlier about the Browns and their quarterback issues earlier, but you know who else has quarterback issues? The New England Patriots. They're still without Tom Brady until week 5, but unlike the Browns, their backup Jimmy Garoppolo has actually led them to wins. But then he went out against Miami last Sunday, so then they had to bring up their third-string quarterback, the rookie Jacoby Brissett, to finish out the game. And it appears he will start Thursday against J.J. Watt and the Texans, and that is definitely a tough guy to go against in your first NFL start. So the Patriots are now down to their third-string quarterback, and you know who's next in line? Wide receiver Julian Edelman. That would be pretty funny if he had to step in, but it remains to be seen what will happen there. Here's some more music. This is Edge 88.1. Edge 88.1, Des Moines radio mashup. It's about 9:10 p.m. The season premiere of Big Bang Theory was yesterday, and I like to call those guys the $1 million actors. Apparently, the main 3, Sheldon, Leonard, and Penny, make $1 million per show. I saw this calculation on CNN Money's website. Depending on how many hours a week they work to film the show and do rehearsals and all that stuff, that translates to anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 per hour. That's amazing. Why don't we make that our minimum wage? That'd be nice. Speaking of big-time money, the Seattle Seahawks were fined $400,000, and Pete Carroll, the head coach, was fined $200,000. I will tell you why right after this. This is Edge 88.1. Edge 88.1, that was Fixed Me by 10 Years. Up next, we have Breath by Breaking Benjamin. But first, the Seahawks were up to no good this summer. Apparently, they violated a rule during their June 6th off-season practice. During OTAs, they say that you're not supposed to have excessive physical contact, whatever that means. And when the league looked at the video from the practice, they determined that the Seahawks were in violation. Pete Carroll, the Seahawks head coach, said the penalties came from 2 players who got banged in the head pretty good. Seattle was fined in 2012 for violating the same exact rule. This time, the team has to pay $400,000, and Pete Carroll himself has to pay $200,000. People like to call the Patriots cheaters, while the Seahawks just kind of fly under the radar with this type of stuff. Very interesting. We have more music coming up for you on Edge 88.1. This is Des Moines Radio Mashup. This is Edge 88.1. That was Ready to Fall by Rise Against. Hopefully you're driving safely out there and avoiding deer collisions. State Farm came out with their yearly deer claim study, in which they rank states based on the likeliness that you hit a deer while driving. And they measure this based on how many people in each state file an insurance claim for damage to their car after hitting a deer. And Iowa ranked 4th, most likely on that list, with a 1 in 68 chance of someone filing a claim after hitting a deer. I don't know about you, but I don't like those odds. I would say that every time you drive past at least 68 people, wouldn't you say? So every time you drive, you pass someone who will file a claim for hitting a deer that year. I wonder how many people don't file a claim because they don't have insurance. So if you're driving, keep your eyes peeled. These next few months are the worst in the year for that. Coming up next, I'll have a recap on the disappointing weekend in Iowa's college football teams. This is Edge 88.1. Here's some more music. Edge 88.1, this is Des Moines Radio Mashup. I wouldn't be doing our listeners justice if I didn't mention our Iowa college football teams and the disappointing weekend that they had. As I'm sure many of you know, after a promising start to the season, the Iowa Hawkeyes lost to North Dakota State University. Everybody's kind of saying it's a huge upset, but is it really? I mean, NDSU has beaten 5 straight FBS schools. They are certainly no slouch. I bet they could hold their own if they were part of the Big Ten. Also, Iowa State and the Matt Campbell era are off to an 0-3 start after they lost to TCU this weekend. Pretty disappointing. A buddy of mine's actually always trying to get me to come up to Ames to watch one of their football games. Of course, I'd have to buy my own ticket, but I don't pay for mediocrity. You'd have to pay me to go watch that team. Maybe I'd consider going to like the Baylor or the Oklahoma game. Then there would be at least one quality team to watch. So coming up next, I have Ordinary World by Red, and I saved the best recap for last after that. This is Edge 88.1, Des Moines Radio Mashup. Sunday afternoon, my favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons, defeated the Oakland Raiders 35-28 after what was basically a shootout. There was not much defense in that game at all. But how about Matt Ryan, who is second in the league in total passing yards and touchdowns, first in the league in yards per attempt, and first in quarterback passer rating. Of course, the one year I don't draft him in fantasy is going to be the year that he goes off. Anyways, that is all for me tonight. Everybody have a great night. We have music for you. This is Edge 88.1, Des Moines Radio Mashup.
Come on, come on, come on.
Des Moines Radio Mashup, Edge 88. It's about a little after 8 o'clock, about 60 degrees, a little chilly at the moment tonight. This is the Instant Replay Show. I am your host until 10, Josh Lemon. You'll hear nothing but sports from me. There's no Kardashian talk, no politics. This is your escape from all that nonsense. And as usual, we have a mashup of music lined up for you, as well as a recap of the week in the NFL. Coming up in the next hour, we have the weekly segment of the NFL's biggest winner and biggest loser. We'll also check in with the Chicago Cubs, who are tied up with San Francisco at the moment, still at 0-0 there. And we'll also explore why the NFL has seen a decline in ratings so far this season for their primetime matchups. Interesting stuff there. All that coming up here on Edge 88. For now, here's some more music. This is Des Moines Radio Mashup. Edge 88, this is the Des Moines Radio Mashup. So the owners of the NFL are getting a little concerned. Their ratings for their primetime games so far this season have been down compared to other years. And there's supposedly a few different reasons for possibly why this might be happening. First of all, more people this year, if you haven't noticed, this is quite a time in the political scene, and more people this year are watching the news and paying attention to that stuff rather than watching football. And I don't recall if 4 years ago they saw something similar where I wasn't paying attention to this type of stuff, so I wouldn't know. But it seems reasonable. Another possible reason is that they are oversaturating the market with the amount of games that they're having. We have them on Thursdays, Sundays, Mondays. They have even ramped up the things they cover, like training camp and practice of sorts of things. And maybe people have just had too much with the football. But no, I think it's much simpler than either of those excuses. I think ratings are down simply because they haven't been putting on terrible matchups, or they've been putting on terrible matchups on primetime. Last night was the Jets versus the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are okay. But really, who wants to watch the Jets this year? Nobody wants to watch the Jets. Sunday night's game had the lowest rating in half a decade, and that can be attributed to, I believe, to the Colts, they're not that good this year, and to the Texans, who are somewhat good, but they aren't a draw. They aren't a draw like the Patriots or like the Cowboys are. The NFL, they need to utilize their flex scheduling, where they move a Sunday afternoon game, one that would draw more eyes, into a Sunday night slot, and demote the Sunday night slot into an afternoon slot. And they have this authority. They can do it, and they have done it. And really, it's what it needs to be done to save the ratings this year. Up next, we have some Green Day for you, as well as after that, the NFL's biggest winner and biggest loser of Week 6. This is Des Moines Radio Mashup, Edge 88. Edge 88, it is time for Week 6. The biggest winner and biggest loser. The biggest winner this week was the Dallas Cowboys. Week 4, everybody said there's no way they can go to San Francisco and beat the 49ers, but they did. Week 5, they said, oh, there is no way they can beat Cincinnati. That defense is just too good. But then Dallas beat them, and by 2 scores, mind you. Then finally this last week, everybody said there is no way they can go to Green Bay and beat Aaron Rodgers in that frozen tundra of theirs. He's too good. The weather is too cold. And what do? They go up there and they win. And now they sit at 5-1, okay? And their fans finally have something to get excited about this year after years of watching Tony Romo get his collar broken on every hit. This week's biggest loser goes to San Francisco. After upgrading their oppressed quarterback Colin Kaepernick to the starting role, they went into Buffalo to try and get back on track, try and see if they can salvage their season. And how did that go? They got throttled 45-16. And although Colin Kaepernick gets to remain the starting quarterback, although I'm not sure he's any better than Blaine Gabbert, their head coach may want to consider putting him back where he does best, sitting on the bench. Coming up, the 49ers weren't the only ones who blew it this last week. That is next. This is Edge 88. This is Edge 88. Another week, another blown call, and another game that affected the outcome of an NFL game by terrible refereeing. And the Atlanta Falcons down by 2 points with a little under 2 minutes to go. It was 4th and 10. Matt Ryan throws a deep ball to Julio Jones, and Richard Sherman, who is getting beat by Julio Jones all day, mind you, he literally grabs him by his arm and turns him midair, causing him to have no chance to make the catch. He grabbed one arm, and Julio, all he could do was reach his other arm into there to try to make a miraculous catch. But no doubt about it, absolute pass interference. You can't get more blatant than that. But you know what? The referees didn't call it. And every Falcons fan, every Seattle fan, and everybody and their mother who watched this game knows that should have been a penalty. And the referees say they don't want to affect the game. They want to let teams play it out. But if it is a penalty, throw the flag. They affected this game by not calling a clear penalty, and they cost the Falcons a win in a game that they most likely would have won if it was officiated correctly. What can be done about these missed calls? That is an easy fix. That next. Here's more music, Edge 88. This is Edge 88. There is an easy remedy to fixing games where there was a missed call or correcting missed calls, and it's really mind-blowing to me why they haven't made this a rule yet. Pass interference. It is a huge penalty, sometimes advancing a team upwards of 30, 40, even 50 yards, and if it is the wrong call, there needs to be checks and balances somewhere to combat that. And this is why pass interference penalties should absolutely be reviewable. People worry about it taking too long, making the game too drawn out. But if the Fox Sports officiating expert Mike Pereira can tell in a matter of seconds that a penalty was missed, if you and I, sitting at home, can tell in a matter of seconds that a penalty was missed, it shouldn't be too hard for the officials to determine that as well. What they should do, which would greatly limit the amount of missed calls, is have a referee in the press box who watches the instant replay for each play and can signal down to the field if something was missed. Every time there's a challenge or a review of some sort, the network is always going to a commercial. You know, that'll last 2 minutes, a minute or two. But the commentators and us fans watching the game, we can usually tell the right call before they even go to that commercial. And why can't the referees make this decision that quickly? If everybody can clearly see what it should have been called, It's an easy fix to move this thing along. I mean, they place too much emphasis on, this can't be reviewed, but this can, and we have replay technology at our disposal. We need to utilize it when it's needed. Up next, we'll talk about how the Cubs are doing. If you're not watching it and would like an update, stick around. This is Edge 88. This is Edge 88. Spoiler alert for you. We have an update on the Chicago Cubs. And it is not looking too good for them so far. We're at the bottom of the 5th inning. And the Chicago Cubs are down 3-0. You know, I don't typically watch baseball, but I'll watch it around this time of the year, during the playoffs and stuff like that, especially when we have a kind of a local team in there like the Chicago Cubs or the Cardinals or what have you. But I went to Johnny's Hall of Fame on Saturday when the Cubs played the Giants for the first time, and we made it just in time to see that grand slam. And did you see that? That was something else. The place at Johnny's went absolutely nuts. There was somebody sitting on top of the bar chanting. It was quite a scene. And it's safe to say Cubs fans are ready for a World Series. It's been a while. We have more music coming up. Up next, the Mighty Metallica with The Day That Never Comes. You're listening to Edge 88, Des Moines Radio Mashup. This is Edge 88, Des Moines Radio Mashup. It is a little past 9:05 here. This is the Instant Replay Show, and it is halftime. Coming up in the next hour, we have our weekly NFL rankings, the top 5 teams in the league through 6 weeks. And also, there will be a premier matchup in college football this Saturday. We'll preview that for you, as well as keep you updated on the Chicago Cubs. Also, what is going on with Aaron Rodgers this week? All that next. This is Edge 88. Up next, we have The Other Side, Red Sun Rising, only on Des Moines Radio Mashup. This is Edge 88. It is time for our weekly update of the NFL rankings. Here is our top 5 in the NFL. Number 1, they didn't play this last week, and they're still undefeated, so they stay here at number 1. The Minnesota Vikings, led by Sam Bradford, they've been absolutely outstanding with that defense this year. Number 2, ever since Tom Brady has been back, these guys have looked unbeatable. The New England Patriots are the best team in the AFC right now, and number 2 in our rankings. Number 3, these guys are always contenders. They scored a win this weekend, despite controversially. The Seattle Seahawks, with that defense and with Russell Wilson leading the helm, they're always in it, and they sit at number 3 here with NFL's rankings. Number 4, the boys. Ezekiel Elliott has been phenomenal. Dak Prescott as well. Dallas has something to be excited about this year. The Cowboys are here at number 4. And number 5, these guys should have gotten a chance to keep driving against Seattle. They have the top quarterback in the league, the best wide receiver in the league, and one of the best running back duos I've seen in quite some time. The Dirtybirds, Atlanta Falcons at number 5. Up next, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers and his fall from grace. This is Edge 88, Des Moines Radio Mashup. This is Edge 88, Des Moines Radio Mashup. Despite being 3-2 so far this season, Aaron Rodgers has not been too hot this year. They lost by 14 points at home this last weekend against the Cowboys. We talked about that earlier. That is the biggest loss at home for the Packers in Aaron Rodgers' entire career. Brian Hoyer of the Chicago Cubs is even averaging better yards per game than Aaron Rodgers this year. That's right, Brian Hoyer of the Chicago Bears. He's averaging his lowest passer rating since becoming a starter. Aaron Rodgers is. The media is really ripping this guy up, but they're still just 3-2. Those 2 losses being to the 2 of the top teams in the league, Minnesota and Dallas. Maybe things are better than they look. We'll find out in the coming weeks. Up next, we'll talk about how the Chicago Cubs are doing. This is Edge 88, Des Moines Radio Mashup. This is Edge 88. That was irresistible, and you know what is irresistible? Hating on Alabama college football. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I am just sick of seeing Alabama win every game by a giant margin. And although they are part of the game of the year, in my opinion, so far this year in college football, This weekend, Texas A&M is going to Alabama to face the Crimson Tide. Both teams are undefeated. The Aggies at 6-0 and Alabama at 7-0. Normally, I'd say Alabama will just run right through them like any other team. But Texas A&M, they're coming off their bye week. That's extra time they had to prepare for this team. It should be a good game. That's Saturday afternoon around 3-ish. I'll be tuning in. All we can hope for is a competitive game with Alabama. It'd be nice to see someone else win. This is Edge 88. Here's Breaking Benjamin on Des Moines Radio Mashup. It's nearly 10 o'clock. This is Edge 88. It's almost time for us to part ways. This was the Instant Replay Show. I was your host, Josh Lemon. Every Tuesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. You can find me here. No politics, no Kardashian discussions, only sports. You can also find other various student shows run by Grandview University in the afternoons and evenings, Monday through Thursday. Make sure you check out those sometime. But for now, I leave you with some more music. Here's Ziggy. This is Edge 88, Des Moines Radio Mashup. You are listening to Edge 88. Are you upset about the presidential election? Or maybe you're just tired about hearing about it all the time like I am? You're in the right place. This is the Instant Replay Show with Josh Lemon. All sports, no politics. Let's start with some breaking news. First round NFL draft pick Jared Goff. He's finally going to make his first start for the Rams this Sunday, although it's too late to salvage their playoff hopes, in my opinion. Jeff Fisher with just some terrible coaching there. Too many good teams in the NFC. You know what's weird, though? I saw this earlier. The Rams have a better record this season when they don't score a touchdown than when they do score one. That's weird. More sports news coming up. Stick around. This is Edge 88. This is Edge 88. The Blair Walsh era in Minnesota is finally over. It all started when he missed that kick in the playoffs against Seattle. And that was some cold weather, and he's never warmed up since. Up next, we got some Rise Against. This is Edge 88. This is the Instant Replay Show. Coming up, Re-Education. You're listening to Edge 88. That was some Metallica, Hardwired. The UFC made their historic debut to Madison Square Garden in New York City. The card featured 3 different title fights, 4 current champions in the main event. The notorious Conor McGregor defeated Eddie Alvarez to claim the lightweight title. He is now the first fighter in the history of the UFC to hold 2 title belts simultaneously, and now people are comparing him to Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd, he doesn't like this too much. He told TMZ it was disrespectful and said elephants don't see ants. And if you ask me, Floyd is desperately trying to stay relevant now that he's retired. But boxing is dead. There's no other way to put it. More music coming your way. This is Des Moines Radio Mashup, Edge 88. This is Edge 88 Des Moines Radio Mashup. 3 out of the top 4 teams in college football lost recently. Now, the playoff rankings are in a sort of pandemonium, and you know who helped contribute to that? Our state's very own, the Iowa Hawkeyes. It was one of their biggest wins in program history. They defeated Jim Harbaugh and his Michigan Wolverines team. The weird thing about Iowa is it seems like the Hawkeyes, they beat the good teams, except Stanford in last year's bowl game, but then they lose to crap teams and teams that they should win. And Alabama seems to be the only sure thing in college football anymore. And after them, any number of teams could make a case that they are worthy of a playoff spot. And it would help if they expanded it to an 8-team kind of system instead of just only 4 getting in. But the other 3 getting the nod right now, Alabama, of course, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson. Wow. Alabama's just sitting there at the table with their arms crossed saying, "What you got for me?" It's shaping up to be an interesting end to the college football season, to say the least. More music coming up. This is Edge 88. This is Edge 88. Another week, another blown call, and another game that affected the outcome of an NFL game by terrible refereeing. And the Atlanta Falcons down by 2 points with a little under 2 minutes to go. It was 4th and 10. Matt Ryan throws a deep ball to Julio Jones, And Richard Sherman, who is getting beat by Julio Jones all day, mind you, he literally grabs him by his arm and turns him midair, causing him to have no chance to make the catch. He grabbed one arm, and Julio, all he could do was reach his other arm into the air to try to make a miraculous catch. But no doubt about it, absolute pass interference. You can't get more blatant than that. But you know what? The referees didn't call it. And every Falcons fan, every Seattle fan, and everybody and their mother who watched this game knows that should have been a penalty. And the referees say they don't want to affect the game. They want to let teams play it out. But if it is a penalty, throw the flag. They affected this game by not calling a clear penalty, and they cost the Falcons a win in a game that they most likely would have won if it was officiated correctly. What can be done about these missed calls? That is an easy fix. That next. Here's more music, Edge 88. This is Edge 88. There is an easy remedy to fixing games where there was a missed call or correcting missed calls, and it's really mind-blowing to me why they haven't made this a rule yet. Pass interference. It is a huge penalty, sometimes advancing a team upwards of 30, 40, even 50 yards, and if it is the wrong call, there needs to be checks and balances somewhere to combat that. And this is why pass interference penalties should absolutely be reviewable. People worry about it taking too long, making the game too drawn out, but if the Fox Sports officiating expert Mike Pereira can tell in a matter of seconds that a penalty was missed, if you and I, sitting at home, can tell in a matter of seconds that a penalty was missed, it shouldn't be too hard for the officials to determine that as well. What they should do, which would greatly limit the amount of missed calls, is have a referee in the press box who watches the instant replay for each play and can signal down to the field if something was missed. Every time there's a challenge or a review of some sort, the network is always going to a commercial. You know, that'll last 2 minutes, a minute or two. But the commentators and us fans watching the game, we can usually tell the right call before they even go to that commercial. And why can't the referees make this decision that quickly? If everybody can clearly see what it should have been called, it's an easy fix to move this thing along. I mean, they place too much emphasis on, this can't be reviewed, but this can. And we have replay technology at our disposal. We need to utilize it when it's needed. Coming up next, one of my favorite songs by 21 Pilots, Heathens. This is Edge 88. There is some big news out today from the NCAA. Their Division I Committee on Infractions is bringing the hammer down on Notre Dame. They're going to have to forfeit some wins from the 2012 and 2013 seasons. Apparently, their student trainer, one of them, violated ethical conduct rules. She committed academic misconduct for 2 football players and provided 6 other players with what they call impermissible academic extra benefits, whatever that means. These players are already going to school for free. What else do they need? Anyways, Notre Dame, they sucked this year, but 2012, that was that stellar year for them where they went 12-1, but then they got blown out in the championship game by Alabama, like most people do. So that part wasn't great, of course, but they followed that up with a pretty good 2013 season, notching a record of 9-4, and they plan on appealing this penalty, which they call is excessive, but they must give up wins where the ineligible players participated, and it's not clear how many wins that will be. Only time will tell. Coming up next, we have some more music. This is Edge 88. Welcome back. This is Edge 88, and you are listening to the Instant Replay Show with Josh Lemon. The Bengals' playoff hopes are circling the drain, and you know what? They just went straight down the pipe. They lost to the Bills 16-12 this last weekend in what was largely a defensive showdown, and now they sit at 3-6-1. Of course, they had that one tie this year, and they're third in the AFC North Division, okay? But beyond that, Beyond that, they had a rough game Sunday in the injury department. Their star wide receiver, A.J. Green, was carted off the field with a hamstring injury, and he's expected to miss multiple weeks. There goes their best player, and fantasy football players around the world are just screaming in horror now. Also, Giovanni Bernard, he tore his ACL, and they just placed him on injured reserve, so he's out for the year. One of the best second-string running backs out there, he's a key part of their offense, so they're going to miss him there as well. If you're a Bengals fan, I feel bad for you, I really do. You're not going to have a chance this year to go one and done in the playoffs. Just not going to happen. Coming up next, we have more music. This is Edge 88.